do have special guest, RPG Coach Clint Rowlings, who has joined us. The reason we've asked Clint to come on, apart from just really loving hearing his voice whenever we can, is Clint has checked out the Ironman Australia new bike course, and I don't know if the run course has changed. We'll find out. But we thought it might be good for the thousands and thousands of listeners to hear about the course and give it a bit of a rundown for us, Clint. So, Clint, welcome. Always great to see you and hear from you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. I didn't think we'd be having video on, and I wish I didn't have to look at your heads, but that's okay.
That bedroom looks like you're come straight out of...
I'm sitting in the lounge room, just quietly, not in the bedroom. Yeah.
So you checked out the course. Yep. Hit me with the obviously the swim's staying the same as usual. For those that haven't done the race before, it is a very hard to navigate swim. Many a man and woman has got very disorientated on that swim course. So I would, if you can get out there and kayak, swim, or go and just visualize the swim course, that would be probably my first tip. Because the first year I raced there, it was actually the year I won, but I got dropped straight away in the swim after a bit of an altercation with another swimmer, and I did not know where I was going, and I lost quite a lot of time. Probably wouldn't have lost as much if I knew what the course was. I've never had to do anything except follow feet before, so that's probably the first thing I'd say. And now the bike course, Clint.
I think with just back to the swim quickly, like unless you're an absolute mad dog like Reed and near the front of the race, like for the age groupers, you never really feel like you know where you're going. Like even like it's not just a straight square or whatever. So to get in the days before the race and actually have a look and pick some markers ahead or work out where you're going is certainly worthwhile there. Like we tried to have a look at it while we were down there the last couple of times, and it just didn't work. Like there's so many boats in there that you're kind of wandering aimlessly through where the course goes. So in the days before, it's definitely worth getting in and having a look. But yeah, the ride course, it's going to be different. I guess the questions, the main question that everyone's been asking is faster or slower. I really think it'll be quicker, just for a few reasons. The first 10K or so is basically flat, so it just allows you to calm down and get going again, without revving like a crazy person out of town like we used to. And then you go west straight away. So that's going to be one thing that we did notice when we left town was how cold it got. Like, because you're not along the coast, obviously. As soon as you head west, it does get a little bit cooler. It was 2 laps out there, so about 120 k's west of town, like out around Telegraph Point, rolling hills. We rode 1 lap really easy, and it kind of, you think, oh, it's really really hilly. Like this is up and down. It's going to be hard work. But when you're actually riding it at Ironman effort and linking the hills up, it was pretty easy to maintain speed. So that's something that anyone I've spoken to post being down there, I've said if you can find a piece of road that's very similar with just like short rolling hills and just learn to ride the downhills and hold your power across the flats and through the next part of the hill, you're kind of 2/3 up the hill before you're even worried about it. So it's yeah, it's kind of similar to the old course. You're just west of town, really.
Clint, is there anywhere in particular that you would say for someone who's coming late, which is probably most of the field who's nervous about not knowing the course, where would you say on the Friday or Saturday to quickly have a little drive out? And is there any descents that they should quickly check out that are technical, or uphills that they should check out to not be nervous about, or anything like that? Or is it all just kind of rolling and that's that?
Yeah, if they've got a car, there's 2 specific spots that were a bit like you'd be better off knowing for sure. One was there's like a downhill section into a right-hander that you go under the train bridge, and it's really skinny. It's a pretty kind of sneaks up on you, that part, and it's really skinny. And once they add witches hats, a lot of athletes on course, that one will be fairly sketchy. So that'll be about, I think the best option would be, if you're going to do an hour or so ride, if you've got a car, to go and park at Telegraph Point service station, and that's kind of the start of the 2 loops out west, and you could ride a loop out there and check out that part of the course. And then the other section that was like really, you'll need to have your wits about you, is instead of, you used to come through town, this is more for the 70.3 guys, but also for Ironman at about 140 Ks, but you go through the hills through the front of town, and instead of turning right to go down Matthew Flinders, you go out to the lighthouse. You kind of build speed the whole way down to there, and there's an S section at the end there that if you're not, a lot of people's time trial bikes don't have the best brakes, and if you're not ready and know what's going to happen, it's a bit of an S-bend that's yet again going to be really tight and pretty sketchy. So they're 2 sections that are worthwhile looking at. Besides that, it's all pretty safe, pretty standard. There's a couple of bridges out there, but they'll cover those with carpet, and then the rest of it will just be pretty much follow the leader.
Oh, good. Well, I asked for those people that are arriving late, and that's one of them is me. So I was writing notes that whole time.
Mate, we'll go through it. But yeah, there's a few, if you've got a car, there's only 2 sections that you really should have a look at, and the rest of it is very similar to previously.
Good to know. To bring this back to Grace quickly, are you planning an Ironman anytime in your career, soon or ever?
Well, I was thinking about doing one a couple of years ago. I thought I'd gift myself an Ironman for my 30th birthday. I'm turning 32 this year, and I still have no desire really to tackle that distance. But it's for sure something I'd like to do in the future, just not this year and maybe not next year.
Smart move.
Yeah.
We're all sitting nodding.
The main thing is you always tell your sponsors you're going to do it, but then never actually do it.
Okay, I am going to Kona, next year.
I think there's so many opportunities to do halves, and with the PTO racing as well, over the 100K distance, I think that, I like to race, and I like to race often. So I think at the moment, throwing in a big Ironman block and then the recovery from an Ironman seems like a large chunk of the year that I won't be racing and I won't be making money. So I think that, at the moment, the 70.3 is where it's at for me.
Well, if you can do 4 races in 4 weeks, that's you're looking at maybe 3 Ironmans in a year, to be able to do it well at best. So, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I think for now, while you've got the speed, capitalize, especially now that all the money is in the shorter racing. Mm-hmm. Clint, sorry, back to the course real quick. So is the run course the same as previous years? And even if it is, do you mind just running people through that so that they can get an idea of what to expect?
Yeah, it's a similar course to previous. They've done a fair bit of work along the waterfront there, so it's probably a lot less. I think maybe the year you won it, Reedy, it rained a fair bit and there was just mud everywhere. So all those sections along town have now been concreted, so it's all pretty standard. 4-loop course, 1 hill per lap. That's basically a spot where you've got to kind of just drop the ego and just run conservatively, because straight off the other side of that hill, you're downhill, so you get to kind of recover and get back in control. Besides that, it's super flat, really fun course, because obviously 4 loops, you're going through town a lot, so you get to see a lot of people and a lot of the competitors as well on course. So it's super simple, but really fun course. So nothing's changed on the run side. The swim, obviously, it'll be similar, but yeah, the ride's going to be, once we'd ridden the whole course, it was really obvious how people are going to make mistakes on that course, because you used to ride 2 loops and it was, go through the hills, and then at 90 Ks, you're kind of still almost warming into the day and dosing your effort. So you'd go through town again, and it was comfortable, and you weren't starting to hit that pain kind of threshold yet. But the way it's going to be now will be you come through town. Well, you finish the loops out west at about 125 to 130 K, and then you roll to town it's really flat. Or it's relatively flat. The roads are pretty good. You'll start to build some speed, and then at about 140 Ks, you go through town. You'll see everyone you know. Then you've got to go through all the hills back out of town. And if you're not paying attention there, you'll ride too hard, forget what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you're out near the golf course at about 150 Ks maybe. And I think that's where it's really not, like 9 times out of 10 on that course, it's a southerly wind. So from like town out to Lake Cat-Eye, you'll be a headwind. And I think that's where people are really going to, if you haven't dosed your effort through the early parts, that's where it's really going to get painful.
You said that the course is kind of nice coming back from the 2 loops. Out on the 2 loops, is it pretty rough like that will be at around the 150 K mark? Because it's just shitty roads and potholes, not big potholes, but just stuff to look out for.
Well, it's
from my experience.
Yeah, it's kind of they're just country New South Wales roads, but the problem with riding it during training is you've got to worry about cars. You've got to not be that idiot cyclist who's out in the middle of the road holding up traffic. So you're stuck on the shoulder. You don't really have anywhere to go. Like, you've just got to stay there and ride the bumps. Whereas on race day, you've got the pick of the road. And when we got a chance a couple of times when we were down there, we just jumped out in that wheel track of like the passenger side of the car, and it's like remarkably better. So the roads out there, I mean, they're bumpy. There's no free speed, but it's like, it's going to be a lot better on race day compared to riding it in training when you got to worry about cars. When you got the pick of the road, it's sweet.
Oh, that's good.
Clint, I got to ask, who do you think is going to win the male race?
I've got a vested interest here, mate. So,
you don't answer.
I'd hope one of 2 humans. It's funny, like the tactical side of things. We won't speak too much about it on here, but it will be different to previously because of the way that the course plays out. So it'll be very much. I think if you dose your effort correctly through the first like 130 on the bike, for the pro guys especially, there'll be huge chunks of time to be made or lost during the last hour or so on the bike. So I'm not going to see how I just danced around that question, mate.
I have a question regarding the bike course. So I've never done Port Mac, but I know of the Heartbreak Hill, I think is what it's called. Is that the right term for that hill? And is it in it this time?
Yeah,
so I remember people having to, adjust their gearing and all that.
Yeah, it's still in the course. You used to do it twice. The guys in the 70.3 now have to do it twice over the 70.3 course, which is pretty solid. But it's a 200 meter stretch of a 220 something K day. Like, I talked about it with a few other people. If it's too much, like the time lost unclipping and walking the last 100 meters and getting back on would be very limited, because by the time, once you get to the top and turn left, you've got about another probably kilometre of slightly uphill. And so if you go up over the top and your heart rate's at threshold and you've ridden it way too hard, you spend the next kilometre trying to get back on track. So I think it's not near as bad as people say. If you've got gears for it and you just don't go crazy, as I said, it's 200 meters of a very long day. The only thing about that is it's at about 175 k's into the ride, so it's probably you're probably already excited about getting off your bike, and it just adds stress to the situation.
I like that though. That's where I'm like, unable to hold 250 watts anymore. So it's going to be like, well, you're not going to move if you don't. So
we'll ask you. Right. We'll ask you post race, Steve, if you still feel the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Clint. You very thorough. We appreciate your time. For those wondering, yes, Clint is a much in demand coach. There's a long wait list, but you can email rpgcoaching@gmail.com. No, actually, it's readperformancegroup@gmail.com if you want to get added to the wait list. No, we appreciate you coming on, Clint, and thanks for getting down there and checking out the course for everyone. It's been
here I was thinking you guys were getting me on here to give me a formal apology for that prank call you made a few weeks ago, and all you wanted is my opinion on the course. I'm a bit disappointed, but thanks, guys.
I'm just sick of you asking for Viagra. I told you it was a joke.
All right, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Cheers.
Thanks, Clint.